the evil that men do lives on.
We're gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, a hard-hitting show featuring all things hard rock and heavy metal. And now here are your hosts, the Twins of Chaos, Clint Switzer and Paul Lagana.
Well, Paul, we're going to be talking some Kiss on this week's version of the Music Mania podcast, because not only are we going to be seeing Kiss on the Freedom to Rock tour here coming up on Wednesday, we've got a very special guest, and former Kiss guitarist Bruce Kulick is joining us right here on the Music Mania podcast. We're going to talk to him about his time in Kiss and much, much more, man. He was, I love Bruce. I love that era. I think Bruce did a great job in Kiss during the 80s and early 90s.
Absolutely. My favorite era of Kiss, actually, believe it or not, was 84 to basically 90, which is our genre, actually. You had Asylum, Hot in the Shade. He was great.
Yeah, and he worked on a little bit of Animalize, I think, before coming in and becoming an official member. You had Crazy Nights, Hot in the Shade,
Right.
And then, of course, he worked on Revenge, which is one of my favorite Kiss albums from '92.
Love that, too.
When Eric Singer joined the band to take over for Eric Carr, who passed away. I love the Revenge era lineup, and things were just heating up for this band, for Kiss, especially as they came into the '95 Unplugged sessions. And then what happens? Well, there's Ace and Peter. They join them at Unplugged, and from there, a reunion is made, and they go back to the makeup. We're going to ask Bruce Kulick about all that and much more. Always been curious to know if Bruce kind of saw the writing on the wall. Hey, Ace and Peter are starting to play. They did some conventions, Kiss conventions around that time. They'd have Peter come up and join him. Then Ace comes up during the MTV Unplugged, plays 2000 Man. And from there, the makeup comes back on.
Yep.
Huge tour for Kiss on that reunion tour. And I think those guys Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick, those guys are professional musicians. They came in, they did a great job in Kiss. But Kiss, they had was it a cash grab probably to go back to the makeup? That's what Kiss is, and that's what people recognize from the band.
They've always been the most commercial band out there, and after that, he knows exactly. I'm sure he was a big fan before he came aboard, so he knows exactly what Kiss is all about.
Yeah, and he's just such an accomplished musician. Of course, he's in Grand Funk Railroad these days. He's done some albums. With our guest last week, John Corabi, they had a band called Union. They did a couple albums together. And Bruce Kulick's always been a guy that's kind of an understated guy, kind of a under the radar type guy. Like, he was never, some massive stage presence, but he was just a very technically proficient player and worked out perfectly for Kiss. His brother Bob had done a lot of session work with Kiss even back into the 70s.
Right.
So Bruce comes aboard. I think that that era in Kiss is a great thing. I mean, from really, if you think about it, Kiss took the makeup off for Lick It Up. And I love that album. I love Lick It Up, Animalize, Asylum, Crazy Nights. It started to get a little poshy, a little over the top as far as the 80s sound goes. And Hot in the Shade, to me, represented kind of the transition between Kiss with more the frilly look. And Gene just kind of struggled during that era with his costume. We're going to ask Bruce about that, because he said before that he thought 80s were a tough era on Gene specifically. Paul seemed to shine, though, in his outfits and stuff.
Paul is Paul, so
but what do
you don't have to worry about Paul.
Before we bring on our guest Bruce Kulick, what do you expect from this Kiss concert coming up on Wednesday? It's actually the Silverstein Ice Center's arena here in Independence, Missouri, outside of Kansas City. Not the Sprint Center, not the big arena. This is the smaller minor league hockey arena. Kiss may be doing some smaller venues on this tour. Surprising?
It was surprising for me, because I figured, Kiss, everything that they've done here in the last probably 10 years has been probably arenas, I would think. But I've seen one show there. I saw Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie there. It's a good show. It's quaint. It's a good venue.
But can it hold the Kiss show? The Kiss is so bombastic, and it's like you just don't picture Kiss in that small of a venue. But it'll be interesting.
I think this show here is going to be a little bit different than the other Kiss shows, simply because they chose this small arena, and I don't think it's going to be as bombastic as you say.
Maybe a little stripped down.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
videos I've seen, looks like the band sounds a little better. Paul Stanley sounds pretty good for what he is, but maybe it's more kind of a stripped down. I mean, it's still got the pyro. It's still Kiss.
Yeah.
I still see the Gene Simmons flying, the Paul Stanley flying into the crowd, the blood spurt. It's all there. It's
Right.
just maybe on a smaller scale with this stage. But
I think
I'll look
so.
forward to it, and I'm going to ask kind of Bruce Kulick just his thoughts on the state of Kiss and maybe what's next. He was never asked to put on the makeup whenever they got back together. After Ace Frehley left the second time after the farewell tour, they went with Tommy Thayer, and maybe because Bruce just didn't want to do the makeup thing. Well, it is our pleasure to go ahead and bring on our guest at this time. He is former Kiss guitarist Bruce Kulick. Bruce, man, it is such a pleasure. Welcome to the Music Mania podcast. How's everything going, my man?
Thank you. Everything's going along well. Thank you. It's great to be chatting with you guys again, right?
Absolutely. What? So you're on tour right now with Grand Funk Railroad. Let me just go through this. You got 4th of July going to be spending it in Miami. There are worse places to spend a 4th of July holiday. And July 9th, Fort Morgan, Colorado, and July 29th in Detroit. I've always been so intrigued by your involvement in Grand Funk Railroad, and just as a big fan of that band. But how's it feel being out on the road again this summer? I know that you guys you tour very frequently as it is, but out again, doing what you guys do best, man. How's it feel?
Well, this is my 17th year of doing dates with them, and what a lot of people don't understand, and a lot of bands do this nowadays, it's just the way it's better to keep yourself out there and make maximize everything with the group is you just do sometimes weekend dates. It's not that often we play during the week, because in order to tour and fill every date, well, you need to be possibly either an arena tour or you're kind of on a bus doing every club in town, if you get what I mean. Going from state to state and doing the club scene. And with Grand Funk, we mostly stick with the casinos and these outdoor rock festival dates and things like that. So I wouldn't call it touring, because what happens is I have these like 3-day weekend gigs that I do. I travel. We all fly in. We meet the day before. Then we do the gig and do our thing, and then everybody usually flies home the next day. Sometimes there's 2 gigs in a row. Sometimes there's going to be a stretch in September where the guys will be out on the West Coast. I live out on the West Coast, so it's not so bad for like 7 days, because of dates out here. But you follow what I mean? It isn't the traditional, like the way Kiss would gear up for a tour with the 10 trucks and buses and the plane, and you're out for 2 months. You know what I mean? It's different.
Yeah.
So, but what's interesting about it, and I'm glad you asked, because it does make for, besides the fact I get my rocks off performing and playing guitar, and the band is terrific, as you probably know. I've been sharing a lot more lately on Facebook and all about the group, and the reaction's been really glowing, because some Kiss fans don't check out other things, sadly, and Grand Funk was really famous before even Kiss, okay?
Sure.
And was an influence for many famous bands, but by having the days home in between, meaning I can come home on a Sunday and then maybe I'm leaving again on a Thursday or Friday, I can have kind of a normal life, even though whose life is normal anymore, or ever.
Yes.
If you get what I mean.
Of course.
It's a crazy world we're living in right now, right? But that's the good thing about it. So in between all these weekend dates, we are going to have like a little gap in July, and I've already told like 5 people, oh yeah, I got a couple weeks off in July, let's hook up then, because there's always so much going on, and that's unusual for us, but we've been working almost every weekend. It's been a very, very good year for us since January. Even in January, we did a cruise, and Peter Frampton was on that, Ace as well, Ace Frehley. That was kind of fun. I got to watch him play, and he got to watch me with Grand Funk. But like I said, it's almost every weekend I got to go journey somewhere, and I get to see America, and and sometimes when there's gaps, I'm able to fill it in with some things that are related to me, like a trip to Brazil, let's say, for 10 days, or where I'm doing just my thing and the Kiss stuff, or I'll go to I went to an expo in Stockholm over a weekend. That was a little crazy, but it was worthwhile because I hadn't been to Sweden in so many years. So there's never a dull moment. I guess I could put it that way.
And that is absolutely the case, Bruce. And I tell you, you are such an interesting case, an interesting musician yourself. I mean, you cut your teeth, playing with bands like Rosetta, Billy Squier, yes, even Michael Bolton. Just kind of describe your upbringing as a guitarist and how blending in with those bands that you played with, before joining Kiss.
Well, first off, I definitely grew up in a good place in the sense that being a New Yorker as a kid and a teenager, every band came to New York, so I actually got to see people like Jimi Hendrix play when I was young. I saw Cream at one of their first gigs in 1966 in New York. I saw Zeppelin. I know that Paul Stanley and I have talked about it. He's been at the same gig as me at where the World's Fair was. There was a place called the Pavilion, and Zeppelin was there, and it was like, whoa, this is amazing. So I was exposed to the British invasion, shall I say. My brother did actually see the Beatles at Shea Stadium. I didn't do that one, but still, I was exposed to this incredible wealth of fantastic music that changed my life. I picked up a guitar rather quickly. I really enjoyed playing. I seem to have had some sort of innate ability, which is good, which means
that helps.
It's genetically, you have some sort of ear for music or ability for it. And I just surrounded myself with it constantly, seeing bands, playing music, getting together with guys. Last year I put out a record from my very first kind of original group that I had with this guy Mike Katz called KKB. We didn't even have a name. We just got together and rehearsed originals and recorded it, and then we wound up putting a new song on it because, it's kind of fun to do a throwback where you all get back together after 40 years, 40 plus years, So, and from there, obviously being in New York, my brother got into the industry as a guitarist. He goes guitar work, for Kiss. And
certainly
toured with Paul Stanley and did Paul's solo record, so his resume. But that was great because, I would play in some cover bands at first, and then I wound up touring with like a George McRae, who was a disco artist, but I went to Europe for like 2.5 months and got to see the world. Within a short year after that, I'm touring with my brother as the dual guitar player with Meatloaf, and then I wind up doing a record with Billy Squier, and then of course I worked with Michael Bolton, and we had a band called Blackjack, and then I worked with him again when he went solo, but he was doing much more of a rock thing. And it was during that tour is when I met Don Brewer. I mean, I was very aware of Grand Funk. I was a fan, but Don Brewer always plays drums for many of the Bob Seger tours, okay, and Bolton was lucky that he got like 2 weeks, 3 weeks on the road with Bob Seger back in '83. So we wound up, I met Don that way. And then years later, of course, well, you know what happens after. I'll go in order here.
Right.
after,
we got a timeline here.
After I was done with Michael Bolton, I was really kind of like looking for something, and that's when I got the call in. I actually helped out Kiss on the Animalize records. That was during the summer of '84. And then by the end of the year, they already put a new guitar player in when things with Vincent went south, and that was Mark St. John. And then he wound up getting some sort of weird arthritic health condition where his hand got swollen, so he couldn't tour. And Paul liked what I did on the little bit of ghost guitar work for Animalize, so he invited me to do the tour. And they've been saying maybe 2 to 6 weeks, and then of course it turned into 12 years, which was quite incredible. And I'm very proud of those years, even though I'll admit at the time I was doing it, I was just doing the best I could, but I didn't realize how important it would be even, so many years from then. It's just people really love reminiscing, and then the new generations learn the stuff, So that, of course, took its course up to the reunion tour, which it was the right time for it. That Ace and Peter really wanted to be back in the band, and Gene and Paul saw the opportunity, and the promoters were just like, yeah, and they, there it is, the first gig, which they just celebrated some anniversary for in '96. And so they sold out Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, 20 years.
How can you complain about that? So I didn't have the gig anymore, although they took care of me for a year, which I was grateful about. And they stayed in makeup, of course, all those years, and still now. but within, I remember first working with John Corabi in a band called Union, and we had a very talented drummer and bassist, Brent Fitz, who played with Slash for many years, and Jamie Hunting, who has played with Roger Daltrey and David Lee Roth. And Union didn't take off, unfortunately, so I started to think about doing some solo records, and my first one was Audio Dog. It was right when I was working on Audio Dog is when Don Brewer was putting together the new version of Grand Funk with him and Mel, okay? They found the right singer, this terrific guy, Max Carl, who was in 38 Special and used to write a lot of songs for many artists. A great singer and incredible musician. So he'd front the band. Mark Farner did sing and play guitar and write a lot of the material along with Don. But in this case, they would kind of replaced him with me and Max, and that's a pretty good 1-2 punch, And then the band got rounded out with a keyboard player, Tim Cash, and was played with Robert Palmer and Bob Seger and all. And those 5 of us, okay? We've been doing Grand Funk since... our first gig was very late in the year of '99. Okay, so from 2000 to now, that's incredible. Usually about 40 gigs a year, and and that kind of gets you up to the date. And just the reason why, I haven't looked for another gig is there's no reason to, but I would fill gaps during all these years with Grand Funk to finish another solo record, to go to, Australia and do some dates for a few weeks, things like that, that still related to my past, but that people wanted to see, Bruce again, supporting, his guitar playing and his career. So it's been pretty much almost every year similar in the sense that I do things like that, sessions for people like Tobias Sammet, and or a guy from Sweden that you may not know, but he's popular there. I stay really busy with all that, and I'm real proud of all my solo records. And I'll let you talk now.
Well, you pretty much covered it
about my career.
You pretty much covered it all, Bruce. But
there you go. I got it all out in 5 minutes. There you go. It's like, yeah.
That's great, though. But just going back for a minute to the '80s with when you first joined Kiss.
Yep.
What was your relationship like with Gene and Paul back then, and how is it now?
Well, I'll start with now, and then we'll go backwards. Really great. I mean, the last time I actually saw them, and it was pretty funny because it was like the Revenge Band, all in an arena, but only I was playing, was when I went over Memorial Day weekend. I played for LA Kiss. That's their arena
football team, yeah.
Team. And I did the Star Spangled Banner for them, and I sat in with the house band, who were all like incredible musicians that I know, have played with, from Madonna to Ace Frehley to onward. So that was fun. But Gene and Paul were there because it's their team, and Eric came in support, and that was really cool. And those guys came to my wedding, and I have a great relationship with them. I can proudly say that me not being in the band has nothing to do with us not getting along or respecting each other. They chose clearly Tommy at the time when Ace was being very complicated and was not showing up at some commitments and things, and Tommy was always ready to jump in for him. And Tommy knew makeup Kiss, and he wore makeup in a tribute band besides having history in the business with Black and Blue and stuff. And he's a fine guitar player who helped Ace get back in shape before the reunion even started. And all of a sudden it was like, Tommy, you got to do this. And next thing you know, it seemed pretty obvious if they wanted to keep things the way it was, meaning like the reunion tour, Tommy would be a great way to replace Ace. And even though it's always a little controversial and everything with the fans, because you know how they can get, but
yes.
The thing about it, for me, I didn't really be the spaceman. I didn't play. I think I was very respectful of the riffs that Ace played, but I wasn't copying note for note. I wasn't wearing the outfit. I wasn't moving like him, or doing smoke coming out of the or rocket coming out of my Les Paul. Okay,
sure.
I just didn't have to do that. Bruce was able to be Bruce. Okay, so anyway, that's how I always get asked that question: why am I not in Kiss? And it's not like I said the wrong thing or I demanded. One guy thought like, you must have asked for too much money or something. I thought that was funny. I said, no, I really miss being in Kiss, but I miss being in Kiss, the version I was in. You know what I mean? No makeup, and the material was kind of different, where they stick, I'd say 90% to the makeup era and some of the records that they did. since then, of course, but not, they don't do a lot of Crazy Nights or Asylum music, you know that. But
I wish they did.
In the beginning, I knew. Let me just finish. I'll tell you how I met them. Gene, I didn't know very well. One time I walked into when they were recording Creatures. My brother and I went up there. That's the first time I saw Eric Carr too. But I didn't get into any conversation. Paul, unusually, Bob and him befriended each other over just being New York players, and Bob auditioned for them, as you know. So he knew about Kiss, and it was sometimes socially where Bob and I would go. Paul was a huge rock star in the 70s, by 78 or something, and he picked his friends and who he was going to hang out with carefully, and he knew my brother, and the two of us would go to a movie or go to a club together, and he was very, very, very cool, very laid back, very, I didn't work with him yet, but I didn't know, the stage persona for Paul is untouchable. I mean, the guy's just an incredible showman, but, he was just your kind of like regular guy in New York, and we all had a good time. I can't say I got to know him well, but I did see, that was the makeup era too. You're not supposed to see him without the makeup, right? Mm-hmm. So here we are going to a movie or going to a club. So that was kind of fun. And I don't think it hurt when Paul wanted to reach out to me years later in '84, although I do think it was a lot of other people that he worked with too that would say kind things to him about my talent and convinced him, well, you've used Bob plenty, you should hear Bruce play. He's really good too, that kind of thing. So it's a really interesting history I have to admit. It really is.
It is, and I'm a unabashed fan of that era. We call it 80s Kiss. I remember you said something funny one time. You said the 80s were an awkward period for Gene on one of the television shows. That cracks me up.
Yeah, specifically Asylum. Come on. The close, it was just nothing to do with, look, Gene's an incredible bass player. He's very underrated. He doesn't care about being on a bass player magazine, if you get what I mean, on the cover, and he deserves it. He's just a really good, solid bass player that really forged his own style based on, to me, Jack Bruce and Paul McCartney. But, here we go into this vibe of rock became kind of glam, okay? Some bands will start in black T-shirts and never change, like a Metallica, okay? And other bands, evolve and they have different looks. Even Pantera had a different look in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I think you're probably aware of that.
Yes.
Right? But, Kiss had this makeup look, which, they did fool around with the versions of the costumes and everything through the years, of course. But the point is, there they were in makeup. They were very identifiable. So by the time it came off for Lick It Up and Animalize, I really thought what they were doing was very cool. But now they're just, they can't hide behind a, kind of, the old black and silver Kiss garb. They can't do that. And it evolved. People like from David Coverdale to Ozzy Osbourne were wearing extremely flamboyant clothes, which Paul can pull that off. Paul, you put any clothing on Paul, he looks good. And you remember the Asylum cape and
the pink frilly cape. Yeah.
Glam and outrageous. You had Poison starting to break. It was popular. It just was. But Gene is the, kind of, God of Thunder, Demon. It was awkward for him. You know what I mean? So that's why I said that. And it's also, sadly, very sadly, it's also part of why you see there's lots of photos of Asylum out there, but there's very, very, very few good pro footage of it. The band never filmed things, I think, in retrospect, I wish they did, but because as much as some of the clothes were a little ridiculous, I'm looking at my Beatle Sgt. Pepper plate right now, and they're dressed in those, like, kind of marching band outfits.
Yes, yes.
It was closer to that, certainly, than the suits that the Beatles started with, or the makeup Kiss. So that's what I mean. It was a very, very awkward time for Gene. I got some of Paul's hand-me-downs, and I'm not supposed to look like Big Bird, that Paul could be, because he's the front man. But and Eric Carr, I think, was comfortable in his spandex, crazy-colored outfits, because he's just behind the drums. But I'm so proud of the Asylum here, and honestly, since it's just turned 30 years, kind of, since that time when that came out and all on the tour, that whole expo that I did in Stockholm had a huge presentation by a guy who was like an expert there of the Asylum era, and we discussed Asylum for like an hour. It was pretty amazing, and I loved it. They challenged me with a slideshow of pictures. Did you see how the stage changed? I'm
Yeah.
like, huh? I'm like, what? You're right, it did. Oh my God. Because we did have to adjust. Many tours will change a bit in the first month, how you do the staging and how you set things up. And I was blown away with how much they knew, and it was like a highlight for me. I mean, it's always great to meet the fans and play for them, but for me to be kind of stumped and to get my memory jogged for some of the things that happened then was quite interesting.
Well, Bruce, let me go back to 92 with that Revenge album. That was kind of a heavier, darker sound. What actually went into that, and was there a conscious effort to actually go in that direction?
Well, the band, if you want to go through everything, Asylum was a bit pop, even though I think it had some incredible songs. Each of the albums, there's songs I'm super proud of that I think really represent little milestones for the band. Crazy Nights had Ron Neverson producing and had some big hits, especially in Europe, and some strong songs. And Hot in the Shade was a bit of a return to a little more straight-ahead rock kind of thing, because music was starting to get a little more grungy and real, and it was less about flamboyant and stadium. It wasn't about necessarily big sing-along anthems. But by the time we got ready for Revenge, we had one little detour which was very helpful for us, which was Bill and Ted's, that movie, which was the, what were those characters' names?
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah, and this was their bogus journey. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was the album.
Can't forget that one.
And they wanted Kiss to cover God Gave Rock and Roll to You. It was presented by the label to us. But they wanted, and I'm not sure how Bob Ezrin was picked to be the producer, but I was very grateful that was a success. So we cut that one song. All right. Now, I'm not going to tell you Revenge was based on God Gave Rock and Roll to You, but it introduced Bob back into the band. The last time he worked with them was The Elder, which was actually a very creative record, but very different for Kiss and not very successful, as you probably know. So in the end, Bob became the producer. So now that now we have a real. To me, Bob is not only brilliant; he's like a mad professor. But he clearly can make a direction for a band. There's no mystery to me that he was involved with Pink Floyd's The Wall, Peter Gabriel albums, Alice Cooper, his resume, and Destroyer. Okay, let's face it, that's got to be the top few of the Kiss albums, right? Sure. So. There's Ezrin, and the direction was going to be we were going to get rough and tough, and I think the clothes we wore for that, which was not really planned, it was almost very organic. How everybody happened to have black leather stuff, and we had a vibe, and that was real magic. That all came together like that. The music took about a year. Bob and Gene and Paul, it was like a no-compromise album. If it had to be redone, we redid it. We really spent a lot of attention to it. It was a tragic year. We lost our car.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on. It came out in 92, but a lot of this was during 91 into 92. And it is my what I feel is, even though I have highlights on all the Kiss records, but I do really I think when people say, "Well, just pick one," I'll say Revenge for me, even though it is. I love all the albums. What Ezrin did and how we all really worked super hard on it, I'm super proud of.
Absolutely. Probably, it's hard for me to pick a favorite non-Makeup Era album. That one would probably be it, Bruce. But I'll tell you what. Before we let you go, we got to give you our final 3 drum roll, which is 3 quick questions, and you just give us whatever quick answer comes to mind, my man.
Okay.
All right. Last concert you saw as a fan?
Let me think of that. Hold on a second. God, I don't go to a lot of concerts, as you can tell. Oh, well, Paul McCartney. Okay, I bought very expensive tickets and saw him at Dodger Stadium.
Well, you can't avoid those with Paul. You can't avoid the expensive ones.
No, and yeah, true, but well worth it. I actually regretted it was at Dodger Stadium, even though it was humanity, sharing love together in a giant arena, so there was a grandiose to it. Kanye West was like 20 feet away from me on the, behind the soundboard, and I had tickets right near the soundboard. So that was really weird. But yeah, I'd have to say the Paul McCartney, yeah. And it was worth it. It was worth it.
So if you had to put on makeup, Kiss makeup, actually, Bruce, what would be your character?
He's never heard this one, I bet, ever.
But I like answering. I think it's funny. Part of why I called my first solo record Audio Dog, at the time I had a terrific dog who, God bless him, was with me like 15 years. And he put up with my nonsense recording and everything. And I always looked at Kiss and was like, well, there was a cat man. And people always ask the question, especially when they put the makeup back on. So I was like, I'd be a dog. You know what I mean? I'd be the dog, And let's face it, I think a cat's a better thing to make up for, but I just always make the joke a dog, and that's why they gave up doing that, and that's why Eric Singer is the cat, and and Tommy's a spaceman, because how many characters can you have? Sorry.
We had a fox, we had an Ankin warrior, we just kind of ran thin there.
Yeah. And you know how hard it was for Eric Carr. I mean, that could have been a real train wreck. You saw the Hawk outfits or whatever?
Oh, that's right, from the conventions. I remember seeing that Hawk. Yeah, the yellow thing.
He on it at the last minute, and thank God he became the Fox. I mean, and you know what? That really did fit him. Vinny, I got no comment about whatever Hawk or whatever.
None of us do.
But I'm just telling you, it's not a good thing for them to keep. Well, let's put them in new things. No. They came up with the magic the first time. The bigger question would have been, let's say, if Eric Carr never passed away, and then there was the reunion, would they have kept the Fox or made him become the cat? Yikes.
So many interesting questions in history. I'll tell you what. Now, another one. This I think I might know the answer to this, but I may be wrong. You can play. You're as a lead guitarist. You play guitar for one set with one band, living or dead. Who are you playing with?
Oh, I'd want to do a set with Paul McCartney, because I just love that stuff. I mean, I could say the Beatles, but that would be ridiculous,
No, it's okay. You're just replacing George Harrison. No big deal.
But just it would have to be a Beatle-related gig, okay? Because that's my biggest influence, my favorite band. That
Absolutely, that is great. I tell you what, Bruce, I can't thank you enough for coming on and talking to us today. I know it's been a long spring for you. You've been very busy, a lot going on, and just to be able to sit here and talk with you and to hear these stories. I mean, it's something that it's funny. As a fan growing up, you hear these things, and you never know you're going to get into the music in the media side of things. And when you talking to people like you, it just makes it all. It really justifies everything. Because it's amazing. So we cannot thank you.
I feel it on my way too, because I remember, as you know, because I know I had to postpone our interview a few times, and life gets in the way.
Of course.
And that life stuff very rarely has anything to do with my guitar playing or my career. You know what I mean? It's family. It's your home. Things like that. And the next thing you know, doing an interview like you makes me more grateful for what I do have on that level. Because you get kind of like, caught up in the other nonsense, you know what I'm saying? But that's life, and that's why everybody should, I'll let you go with my philosophy. Everybody should care about what they do. I don't care if they're flipping burgers or making tacos or cleaning floors. Care about it, take pride in what you do. Respect everyone the way you want to be respected, and take care of your family and love the people that are important in your life, and treat everybody else with respect. That's all.
Bruce, couldn't said it better myself, man. I can't thank you enough. Let's keep in touch, man. We got each other's email addresses. We'll hook up again, man, sometime down the road. You bring Grand Funk Railroad to the Midwest here to Kansas City, we'll hook up. Any of your other endeavors, if you need any promotion, let us know. We'd be glad to help out, man. We cannot thank you enough, my man.
You're very welcome. You guys have a great time with your show, and thanks for having me.
Great. Have a great holiday, Bruce. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bye-bye.
Our thanks to Bruce Kulick of Kiss and various other projects. Clint, the guy was unbelievable.
Yeah, great to have it. Now, I had a list of questions here that I was going to ask, and he pretty much answered them all right in almost a perfect timeline of what I had here. So I guess either we didn't have it cool enough or unique enough questions, or or he just has done this so many times that he knows the drill.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, well, those are the best interviews for me. Is when the artist just goes and goes and goes
because no one wants to hear from us. Let's just face it.
Yeah, exactly. We have a voice for radio, actually. So
a face for radio.
I'm sorry, a face for radio.
That's for darn sure.
Right, yeah, we had that discussion before, but
we did.
Bruce was great as usual. Everybody else that we have on here is great.
Yeah, we can't thank everybody enough, man. We love doing this. Love having the guests from John Corabi a couple weeks ago. Now Bruce Kulick, and actually next week we're going to be talking with Brent Woods, guitarist, Sebastian Bach, Vince Neil. He's just done it all. Wildside, one of our favorite bands, one of our favorite obscure
Hang on,
bands.
Lucy. One of my favorite songs of back then of all time.
Can't wait to talk with Brent Woods. But guys, thanks. Please follow. We want to thank you for following us on our social medias: Facebook, Twitter, certainly Instagram. Downloading on iTunes. Give us that good star rating. Give us a like. Do all the things that you do on social media anyway. Just do it for us. We appreciate it, guys. We can't thank you enough. Thanks so much for listening this week, and we will catch you again next time around.
Later.
Give us an exit, and we'll.
Maybe we can just cut that. Makeup.
That's what I'm gonna do.
That's all you got to do.
That's all I'm gonna do.
Cut out the makeup and we're done. I mean,
that's what I'm gonna do.
They'll find out anyway about the makeup. So.
All right, now just say thank you.
All right. Our thanks to Bruce Kulick of... damn it, sorry. What is it, Bruce Kulick?
Yeah.
Okay. Our thanks to Bruce Kulick of KISS and various other projects. Clint, the guy was unbelievable.
Yeah, great to have it. Now, I had a list of questions here that I was going to ask, and he pretty much answered them all right in almost a perfect timeline of what I had here. So I guess either we didn't have it cool enough or unique enough questions, or or he just has done this so many times that he knows the drill.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, well, those are the best interviews for me. Is when the artist just goes and goes and goes
because no one wants to hear from us. Let's just face it.
Yeah, exactly. We have a voice for radio, actually. So
a face for radio.
I'm sorry, a face for radio.
That's for darn sure.
Right, yeah, we had that discussion before, but
we did.
Bruce was great as usual. Everybody else that we have on here is great.
Yeah, we can't thank everybody enough, man. We love doing this, love having the guests from John Karabi a couple weeks ago, now Bruce Kulick, and actually next week we're going to be talking with Brent Woods, guitarist, Sebastian Bach, Vince Neil. He's just done it all. Wild Side, one of our favorite bands, one of our favorite obscure
Hang on,
bands.
Lucy. One of my favorite songs of back then of all time.
Can't wait to talk with Brent Woods. But guys, thanks. Please follow. We want to thank you for following us on our social medias: Facebook, Twitter, certainly Instagram. Downloading on iTunes. Give us that good star rating. Give us a like. Do all the things that you do on social media anyway. Just do it for us. We appreciate it, guys. We can't thank you enough. Thanks so much for listening this week, and we will catch you again next time around.
Later.
Welcome to the Music Mania podcast. Clint Switzer and Paul Lagana. Paul, big guest today. We've been publicizing it. We are going to be speaking with Wild Side guitarist Brent Woods. And of course, everyone knows Brent Woods. I also worked with Vince Neil, Janie Lane. He's the current guitarist for Sebastian Bach. He's just kind of done it all. And we are going to be speaking with Brent Woods here coming up about one of my favorite albums from the I almost said 80s because it's such an 80s sounding album, but it's 92's Wild Side, Under the Influence, Hang On Lucy. Great album. Can't wait to get into it.
Incredible for me. And I want to hear about how actually that all came about, because I read somewhere where he actually recorded that album. The band actually recorded that album with Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, at the 5150 Studios. That's correct. They were the first outsider to record there other than Van Halen. So that's crazy. Going to ask about that.
I guarantee he's going to have some stories about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brent Woods is a guy that's been there. He's been around. I mean, he's done, I think he did somewhere 8, 9, 10 years with Vince Neil, worked with him on his Carved in Stone album, Janie Lane before he passed away. And of course, he's been on tour with Sebastian Bach for the last, I think, couple years. And he's just kind of done it all. And he's worked, he's just one of those guitar players that he's just so reliable. He's respectable. So he keeps getting jobs, man. People want him in their band. He does a great job. He's got a great look. Can't wait to ask about Wild Side because they have a show coming up in September 3rd in Boulder, Colorado. They will be appearing with Lynch Mob.
That's right.
So going to see Wild Side live again this summer. That's great that they're having a show. Hopefully more to come from them because like we always say, the grunge era really unfortunately kind of erased Wild Side because they came out so late in the game.
The grunge invasion, if you will. But no, yeah. Also, I want to know about when they first formed, they were playing the Hollywood clubs. That's where actually they're from, is Hollywood. So I want to hear about what it was like.
Because they were young guns back then, yeah.
Right. But they switched over to Wild Side. But, I'm sure he's got some stories about the Hollywood club scene as well.
Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. We're going to go ahead and bring on our guest at this time on the Music Mania podcast. It is our pleasure to welcome guitarist extraordinaire Brent Woods. Brent, welcome to the show, man. How's everything going? Exiting.
We need to.
Because when you're fresh on it, you remember.
Now I remember.
Right.
I couldn't remember shit.
I couldn't either.
I really.
To be honest.
That was
I just remember that
you.
because I remember I whispered it to you.
That was 2 weeks ago.
To ask about. Yes, I remember I was like, ask him, what do you have made up? And you're like, all right, give us an exit.
I've probably done 800 bowls of. No, I'm just kidding. By then.
You should say that.
Yeah. Clint, Brent Woods, what a guy, buddy.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad he told us because I've always used the Wild Side Facebook page, taking that as gospel, taking that as the band's official page. Apparently, former member is using that page to slander the band, and do not take that is not the Wild Side official page. That is kind of a page. As we were talking to Brent, kind of off the air, after we stopped recording, he called us back and wanted to talk about how that page has been taken hostage by a former member, and I don't really understand because the Facebook page is promoting some of the show coming up, but yet He said they've also had to try to get the page taken down, get some of the posts taken down. There's some slanderous things being said. How in the world is that going on? Like, get that page down.
Well, the problem is first of all, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page himself. He does have a Facebook page himself, but the former band member going on and there is no way in the world that he's probably missing promoting opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, because they don't have an official site. You try to get a hold of them through their Facebook. That's all you have. And I mean, I could have easily sent a message to that Facebook trying to get the interview with Brent, but I have his personal Facebook that I was able to get a hold of him through. So I'm just, he was very understated about that during the interview, and I feel horrible for the band because I mean they're missing out on opportunities. Brent's a great guy, and he didn't want to. He wasn't trying to trash anyone, but you need to get this page taken down is what you need to do somehow. And I hope it happens because they need to have their own page and their own, controlled, social media so they can get shows booked.
And I think they will, especially after this. I mean, this page here obviously is not the official band page. So
absolutely.
Do not go to it.
Do not go to it. Do not like anything. Do not comment. Guys, but what you can do, like and comment, is on our page, Music Mania Podcast. We appreciate all the feedback. Thanks for downloading on iTunes, listening on YouTube, however you did it. We can't thank you enough for checking us out, man. And
right.
The guests are going to keep coming. We got the summer rolling. We cannot thank you guys enough. Guys, have a wonderful time this week. Hey, crank it up. It's the weekend. Hit some tunes, maybe a show.
Go see a show, man. We're in the middle of July now. Shows are all over the place. So get out and support these guys because we do, and we love them.
Have a good one.